I remember the day my family gathered in the living room, faces contorted with laughter, mocking me as if I were a character in their favorite sitcom. "You're going to ruin the family name," my mother said, her voice dripping with disdain, as she waved my research paper like it was a vile creature. "This obsession of yours with fungi? It's insane. You're going to lose your mind over some mold." The laughter rang in my ears, a symphony of ridicule that pushed me further into the shadows. I had once been a food safety inspector, someone who took pride in protecting people from the unseen hazards lurking in their meals. But one careless mistake, an allegation that I had fabricated a mold contamination scare at a prestigious restaurant, had unraveled my career and reputation. Disgraced, I turned my back on the world that had turned its back on me. Years passed, and I immersed myself in the underground realms of parasitic mycology. My obsession became my salvation, a path paved with the eerie beauty of organisms that thrived in darkness, feeding off the decay of life. I wandered through abandoned spaces, mapping out the territories of forgotten fungi, each encounter a testament to my resilience. The world dismissed me, but I was no longer the discredited inspector. They now called me a researcher, a pioneer in my field. But I wasn't just a researcher. I was a survivor. The very molds I studied had shown me the sinister forces lurking beneath the surface of reality, and I had become their reluctant ambassador, warning others of the dangers they refused to acknowledge. My family's laughter faded, replaced by a chilling recognition of my work that echoed throughout the scientific community. I had become a name they feared, a dark reflection of what they once mocked. It was time to return home. The drive felt surreal, each mile a reminder of the laughter that had haunted me. My heart pounded as I pulled into the driveway, the familiar house looming like a specter, a shrine to my past. I could see them inside, the very people who had belittled my passion. I felt a rush of vindication mixed with dread. They would see me now, not as the fool they once thought I was, but as someone who had faced the horrors they couldn't even begin to fathom. When I stepped through the door, their faces shifted from surprise to disbelief. "What are you doing here?" my brother asked, the words dripping with a mix of confusion and concern. I could see the flicker of recognition in their eyes, a glimpse of the person I had become. "I've come back to show you," I said, my voice steadier than I felt. "I've uncovered something important." I had brought samples with me, meticulously collected from the dark recesses of abandoned buildings where parasitic molds thrived. They were beautiful in their grotesqueness, vibrant colors swirling like a painter's palette. I laid them out on the kitchen table, my heart racing as I watched their expressions morph from skepticism to horror. "What is that?" my mother gasped, recoiling as if the samples held some infectious curse. "Get that away from me!" "Do you remember the stories I used to tell you?" I pressed, urgency creeping into my voice. "The legends of mycological horrors that can manipulate memories, reshape bodies. They're not just stories, they're real. I've seen them." "What do you mean?" my father asked, his bravado fading as he leaned closer to the samples. "You're not serious, are you?" I nodded, feeling the weight of my experiences tugging at my chest. "I've witnessed how these molds can invade the mind, how they can twist perceptions and create shadows of the past. They thrive on disbelief, on mockery. It's why they've eluded detection for so long." As I spoke, a chill washed over the room. I could see the dawning realization on their faces, the creeping dread that perhaps I was no longer just the family disgrace. I was a harbinger of truths they had long dismissed. And then it happened. A dark form crawled from the shadows behind me, a grotesque silhouette that seemed to pulse with life. It was a manifestation of my research, a living embodiment of the horrors I had unearthed. The room filled with an acrid stench, a pungent reminder of decay, and the samples I had brought began to react, bubbling and shifting as if alive. "Run!" I shouted, but it was too late. The shadows enveloped them, whispering secrets and fears they had suppressed for years. I watched in horror as their faces twisted in terror, their laughter silenced by the reality of my discoveries. They were no longer mocking. They were the hunted, trapped in a nightmare born from their disbelief. I stood by, heart racing, as the darkness consumed them, their cries echoing in my ears. It was a fearsome spectacle, one I had never wanted to witness. But in that moment, I understood. The very thing they had ridiculed me for had become their reckoning. As the shadows receded, I was left standing in the aftermath, the air thick with silence. I had survived, but at what cost? The weight of my knowledge felt heavy on my shoulders. I had sought vindication, yet I had become a witness to their unraveling. With trembling hands, I gathered my samples. Now a grave reminder of what I had unleashed. I stepped outside, the cool air biting against my skin. The world was vast, filled with hidden horrors waiting to be uncovered. I wasn't just a mycological investigator. I was a guardian of truths others were too afraid to face. As I walked away, I knew I had become something more than just a survivor. I was a keeper of dark knowledge, carrying the burden of what I had unearthed. In the silence of the night, the laughter faded into memory, replaced by the chilling understanding that sometimes the shadows we mock are the very shadows that will one day reclaim us.